friends, welcome back to Prime Animations. Welcome back to our channel. I normally like to do the special topics and the project update all in the same package, but when it gets too lengthy, I don't want to do that. So I'm going to be doing this special topic apart. It's just this last time, to be quite frank. So let's just go ahead and get into it. So I've been trying to move on from all the drama that took place between December and January. However, I'm sure that today's announcement will come with even more drama. So I figure I'm just going to rip off the Band-Aid and just kill two birds with one stone, get it over with once and for all, right? So as many of you know by now, Aiden left our remastering project, or the remastering of the sound of the audio, incomplete, thanks to Ben, who convinced him to leave.
And there's a part in this where he said that he's going to hire a professional to finish the audio work, because I convinced Aiden, who was doing the audio rework, to get out of the project, send whatever he was missing, and that's it.
So he convinced Ben. So he can't leave by himself because of whatever issues he has. He has to convince other team members to do it as well. Okay, so it kind of puts my sabotage video into perspective now, doesn't it? So we did contact the professional audio person, and the quote that this individual gave us was between $2.5 and $3,000 for the remaining scenes. So obviously we don't have the means to do that, unless somebody's out there who's willing to donate $3,000. That's not going to happen, because I'm not going to take it out of my pocket to do that. I can't afford it. So Nolan will rework the scenes 11 and 18. He'll make sure that they connect. We talked about it before, where I think when we were doing the individual unrendered scenes, I asked him to keep that in mind, that they are going to have to connect, and maybe we lost sight of that. And so he's going to go back and make sure that they all connect with one another, and then make sure that the transitions from the prior and the next scenes are taking place. Mike will assist, and then I'll be working the sound effects that were done by Aiden. What I'll be doing is using sound effects from prior scenes to basically do a chop shop. I'll chop it up wherever I can, and I'll place it where I need to, and we'll work that way. Good news, as far as this is for the folks that are for the Blu-ray. Again, all of this is for Blu-ray. A fellow fan who's been following us for years noticed the difference in texture quality regarding Earth-based external environments and all the other stuff. So he contacted me, and he was willing to help us update the look for those external environments. So when we look at, for instance, scene 14, or the construction yard scene, for example, he's provided a sample of the upgraded textures and the upgraded scene that he's been working on. So as you can see here, it's a really nice improvement. So we really appreciate him helping us out the way he is. And for those who are getting the Blu-ray, you'll see an updated texture and environment quality for those Earth-based scenes. So he already handed me the construction yard scene, which that entails scene 14, 16, 18, and 19. And re-rendering has already commenced for those scenes while the audio is being reworked. So just to give you an example, scene 14 is being rendered as we speak. Next is updated character textures. Battle damage option is being updated for certain characters. So like I mentioned before, one of the legit criticisms is how shiny they all look throughout from beginning to end. There was no battle damage, and I thought that was such a legitimate criticism. And I remember having a conversation with Ben in November and asking him if we could do 5 or 6 characters. He said yes. He was like, yeah, I could totally. Said, if you can't do it, don't worry about it. But if you can, if it's a quick update, then maybe we should do it, because it would be a nice to have. And he said he could do it, and unfortunately he never did. A whole month went by and not one single character was updated. So I went back and I re-engineered, like I kind of looked at how the textures were set up, and I looked at that specific character, Brawl, and what I did was I mimicked what was done on Brawl, and I mimicked it throughout all the other characters. And it's just basically a cut and paste and changing the values and the color, and that was it. So I'm going in, since I have to update some of these environments and re-render them, I'm going in and adding battle damage to certain characters. characters that took on heavy damage you'll really see it versus the ones that maybe didn't take as much. But you'll see a difference in the battle damage features. So, like I said, that has been updated to all the characters that we have pending the Combaticons, and that'll be our set going forward. Right, we will be able to distinguish those battle damages in the future films. So that's pretty exciting. So again, nice little extra detail for the folks that are getting the Blu-ray. Now I'm excited for the next part, which is recasting changes. So after the tragic and frustratingly regrettable event that took place on January the 7th of 2023, I saw a number of comments that said, and I quote, "The character of Optimus Prime deserves better," end quote. At that time, I ignored those comments because I thought this was a difference of just political views, right? Right versus left, conservative versus progressive. So I ignored it. Now that revelation has taken place and it turns out that those people were actually correct, their words really hold weight at this point. So, knowing what I know now, yes, it does bother me as well to have Optimus Prime being voiced by someone who has so much hate for people who bear a different skin color, tone, or ethnic background than that individual does. So, I'm making this announcement now. I'm making this announcement out of my own convictions, not because someone suggested it or because it would appease anyone. No, I'm making this decision because it's my own decision, and I think the Prime character deserves someone who embodies the attributes that he stands for. So it's with great joy that I'm announcing today Optimus Prime will not be voiced by Jason for the Blu-ray of Galvatron's Revenge. Rather, our awesome voice casting director has managed to get us a replacement who is willing to re-record the lines of Galvatron's Revenge. And in the last 2 weeks, he's recorded the lines, and I'm working on replacing them for the folks, again, who are getting the Blu-ray. So that's very, very exciting news.
How you doing, boy? No.
And I'm sure this news is going to cause more drama, but it's unavoidable. Again, this isn't meant to change anyone's mind because people have made up their minds on what they want to believe and who they want to believe. And it's kind of hard to think anyone would be willing to believe in lies versus the truth simply because they don't like me due to my prior friendship with Jason, which, by the way, is still a giant head scratcher for me. We've got people who hate me and hate this project for my prior friendship with Jason, but they're going over to Ben's channel, who's still friends with him today, to this very day, and supporting him. So, as you can see in this pic that I'm showing, Jason is over there on Ben's channel encouraging him and defending him, right? So now there's two things I want to point out here. Jason is still trying to, lie and worm his way out of something that he proudly displayed by saying, "Oh, there's two sides to the story."
Is he a white nationalist?
He calls himself a national socialist.
Oh, so he's a Nazi.
That's what he calls himself.
Excuse me,
Well, no, I mean, that's
Like,
based?
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 No, there's only the truth and there's only a lie, as we just finished seeing in that video. Then the second thing is the guy who claimed to stand against bigotry, saying, quote, "Judging people based on who they are friends with, and what their friends do is stupid." Hello? Isn't that the same guy who came on my channel bashing it because I was friends with a quote-unquote bigot? It's just a head scratcher to see folks who used to like this project and this channel and even wanted to be a part of it, trashing it after the Jason scenario, and then going on to Ben's channel to support him. And again, I'm not talking about cancel culture and guilt by association. I don't support that stuff. I'm just pointing out the Bermuda Triangle effect here for me. I mean, if you disliked the project before January 2023 and you disliked it afterwards, kudos to you for being consistent. I respect you. But I can't understand the aspect of hating me for being friends with Jason while going onto Ben's channel to support him now while he's still friends with Jason. I just don't get that. But anyhow, in addition to that voice casting change, we've also found a much better sounding Megatron who has also re-recorded my lines. Now, why is that? Because although one person said I was the worst Megatron in fandom, I'm not a voice actor, You know, this was my first time doing any type of voice acting whatsoever. And I'll admit it, I don't think I'm the worst, but I also don't think I'm the best. So again, thanks to our awesome VA casting director, the new VA is able to do an amazing rendition of Transformers Prime Megatron, and thus I decided to turn over the role to this individual so he sounds, as he sounds almost identical to TFP Megatron. Now, moving on, finally exposing lies. So speaking of Ben, I've got to give him credit. He's managed to make Starscream look like a rookie at this point. It's a bit of a head scratcher why people would lie knowing it can be easily disproven. Now, I can speculate, perhaps they've forgotten details of what took place, or perhaps they have, I don't know, a warped perspective of events that unfolded, or perhaps it's just blatant in order to make themselves out to be a victim, in order to justify their actions and gain support. Ben comes out with a response video to my video exposing many of the things that went on during our production due to the various lies being spread from, former teammates. So I don't want to pick apart the entire video because we'd be here for another hour. But if I can just pop a few bubbles here and there, the rest should stand in doubt, right? Given his track record and the massive amount of lies, that should be sufficient for anyone to see, again, who's telling the truth and who's not. So during the video, he actually admits that he lied about his efforts, right? And his completions regarding the project. He had no choice, at this point, due to the revealed messages that took place from my company's chat group or group chat. But instead of actually owning this and apologizing and leaving it there, especially to the folks, complaining about how long it took, he dismisses it. He dismisses the importance of his admission by compounding the statement with a lie. He claimed that I expected him to do everything, which is the same lie he told his dad. And, it's just, this kid's like a pathological liar, and not even a creative one, as he's recycling the lie that I already debunked in the sabotage video. But let's take a listen.
About the delays part, he's not acknowledging the fact that there's stuff with Blender that came up that's just like, I had delays because I didn't know what to do. I was trying to figure them out. And sorry, I didn't meet your expected due date, but I couldn't figure it out. I'm sorry. There's a point where I delayed the project 6 months, where I didn't do as much as was desired. And yes, I did lie. There's a part that he mentions here that I did lie about the work I was doing, and I'm very sorry. I just burned myself out, became reluctant to do the work because I was having to texture. I textured scene 1 of this entire project, and the overall thing here was, for me, was the fact that I was on my own doing the texturing at first, for the most part, and then Carlos and Jazz came in and I showed them what I had done for the start of it. The problem was that, at the very start of it, when I was texturing certain scenes, I was having to reapply the exact same textures over and over and over again. Galvatron's Revenge is a total of almost a little bit under 50 files, 50 Blender files. So I had to go in each Blender file and reapply the exact same textures to the exact same characters or to the exact same environments. Do you know how tedious and annoying that is and repetitive? And so then at the same time, I'm having to smoothen out animation. That also takes time. And I burned myself out. I stayed up long nights trying to get it done. But then I burned myself out and I was just like, I have my life to live. And I'm not saying screw your project, anything like that. I just didn't know how to proceed. I was me being irresponsible. I 100% take responsibility for that. I hold myself accountable to that end. But at the same time, I didn't receive help from you until later on.
So there's so much to unpack in just that one clip, but let's see if we can take it piece by piece because there's multiple lies mixed in with truth. Let's try and take them in sequential order. Yes, there were things that came up in Blender, that's correct, and there's no blaming anyone for that as those are unforeseen things that take place. What I do fault him for is not properly communicating, but instead lying about it. As stated before, Ben's job was to light scenes and prepare for rendering. Not render but prepare for it. I want to make that very clear. He was the one who offered to upgrade the textures. I asked if they can be done by July because that is when I'd like to start rendering, and he said yes. Now, he did have issues going from Blender 2.8 that we were at to 3 point whatever. I don't remember. I think it was 3.4 that he was using. Neither one of us could have known we would have update issues in the process. So that's not his fault, right? We had keyframes that didn't carry over, assets that didn't carry over, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not blaming him for that. It was something unforeseen. His fault, though, comes in where, as texturing lead, he should have approached me and said, look, Carlos, this is going to take a lot longer than originally expected because of these issues, right? If he would have said that, I would have assessed. And if it was going to be massively longer, I would have declined his offer to retexture. I would have said, let's just not do that then. As nice as it looks, that what you did, let's not do that. Let's just stick to the original plan and just light the scenes and prep the preferences for rendering. And smooth out any animation that you feel is necessary. Now, he does mention how smoothing animation takes time. Yes, it does. And I constantly mention that during the 4 to 5 meetings that took place, when he first joined, and each meeting was like 4 hours long. And this was with Mike, Ben, and myself. And what we did is we nitpicked everything that needed to be fixed and updated. And I reminded them both, we have to manage quality and quantity here.
Let's see. We were able to do our artist interview with Ben. Cool guy, brand new to the team. Again, another fellow who's getting his sleeves rolled up and, getting on in there, man. We spent the last couple of days, or the last 2 weeks, 4 different sessions. We have 4 different sessions where both it was Ben, Mike, and myself. We just went through the entire film, critiqued the heck out of it. I mean, everything, right?
So he knew what he was getting into from the very beginning as he was part of those discussions. So could it be that Ben overpromised and underestimated? It could be, but then we go back to the communication, right? If that was the case, where he couldn't have properly projected all of everything we took, then you communicate that. Imagine you're a lead at something, and then at work, let's just say you're responsible for something, and your boss is asking you for updates, and you're lying to your boss as opposed to telling your boss, hey, by the way, we've got this and this problem coming up. I think that would be the professional thing to do. So after admitting that he lies, he apologizes for it, but then follows up with another lie. As usual, have receipts, and as you can see here in this message to him in July of 2023, I told him a couple of things. He shouldn't be rendering anything. That's my job. The statement clearly shows that I asked him previously and currently to train me on his texturing methodology so all the scenes are in sync with one another and I can help him. And he really shouldn't be working on anything related to TFP Dinobots Unleashed at that point until we were done with Galvatron's Revenge. I asked him several times to show me how he's texturing so I can help him, and he never did. However, while he was texturing though, I was working on that long list that we put together. I was working on tweaking all of those things so that when he got to it, he didn't have to do any of that. Or I shouldn't say he didn't have to do anything, so that he wouldn't need to do as much. He can just fill the gaps, like all the obvious stuff would be done, and then he can come in and do the additional smoothing. So as you can see here, Ben wasn't alone, and if he was alone, it's because he didn't follow directions. To be quite frank, Ben was probably just really excited to get into the sequel, but he definitely overwhelmed himself. And that's the key thing, he overwhelmed himself. After his lies, which went on longer than 6 months, and caused over a year delay, he continued to lie. We had to do weekly meetings to make sure that he was completing his deliverables. And as you can see in this file, Ben was pretty much all over the place. Instead of doing one scene at a time, moving on to the next after completion, he was doing little things here and there across the entire film. More than likely contributing to the overwhelming that he experienced. In his video, he takes a dig at me for having notes, and I think that's pretty cute. As a vice president in a project management capacity, being organized is an important factor of professionalism. And Mr. Ben clearly hasn't learned that yet. You know, and speaking of professionalism, did anyone notice how he completely sidestepped his own no-show at a paid client stream? Listen, his video wasn't about confessing to the truth, but it was to victimize himself and try to absolve or justify his lack of professionalism. Looking at the message, you can clearly see Ben was even 2 weeks late in delivering renders for a paid client. So I really don't think Ben should be criticizing anyone's professionalism given his shortcomings on this project, but also in his own personal life. By the way, who goes onto social media platform to badmouth a prior employer simply because they didn't like how the film turned out?
It was brought to my attention that Carlos, the owner of Prime Animations, my former boss, decided to make a video titled Sabotaging Prime Animations and Its Future Projects.
Yes, I was in a way Ben's boss as I paid him for projects that were completed under Prime Animations LLC. And I'm still confused about his video because he confirms that he did or didn't do he confirms what he did or didn't do and what scenes he touched.
What am I lying about, bro? It's like, I did 15 out of 19 scenes. That's not a lie. I did 15 out of 19 scenes. Let's count it off, why don't we? Scene 1, I did scene 2, I did scene 3, I did scene 4, I did scene 5, I did scene 6, I did scene 7, I did scene 8, I did scene 9. I loved doing that one because it's the Combaticons. I did scene 10, I did scene 12, I didn't do 11 because of time. I did scene 13, I did scene 14, I did scene 15, I didn't do 16, I did scene 17. That is a total of 15 scenes. Count it off. Like, little tally mark right here. That is 15 out of 19 scenes in this whole movie.
So the story and dialogue was exactly the same from the unrendered uploads. The final look of the film was based on his direction, and he enhanced 15 out of 20 scenes, and that's including the post-credit scene. In his video, he completely missed the post-credit scene that he worked on. Oops! I guess he wouldn't have missed it if he had taken notes, but that's another subject, right? In full transparency, scene 11 had 14 subscenes and 18 had 12 subscenes. So if you go back to the Fire Brothers review, they trashed the film from scene 1 all the way to the post-credit scene. But Ben only took credit for the Megatron Combaticon flashback. He claims in his video it's only his opinion because in his eyes that part turned out the best of all the others. But you can tell by the reaction from the folks in that video, that's not how they took it. They took it as if that was the only scene he worked on, or else they would have trashed him. They would have trashed him for everything if they knew all the scenes that he had actually worked on. As a matter of fact, if he's there listening to them trashing from scene 1 to the post-credit scene, and he knows internally, he's like, I worked on that. So that should be a reflection on himself. But anyhow, let's take a quick look.
Yeah, I did say that, and that's the truth. Like, even these guys are praising that it looked really good. You could see the major, like, it's night and day, literally night and day of how different my texture, the texturing is in that scene or that clip rather, as opposed to the rest of the film. Now, I could have done better. I could have applied the new textures, but we were already so farther along. Like, each time I got a scene was done with the animation and the texturing, Carlos would already start rendering. So, of course, it's, it's like, I think it's bad because, like, that was my first time having to texture and animate for a full-on fan-made movie.
So, did you notice the lie in there? He acknowledges there's a night and day difference between the flashback scenes in comparison to all the other scenes. He says, and I quote, I could have done better. I could have applied the new textures, but every time I was done with a new scene, with the animation and the texturing, Carlos would already start rendering. So wait, didn't he just say he was done animating and texturing?
Scene was done with the animation and the texturing, Carlos would already start rendering.
That seems a little contradictory to say you're done texturing and animating, but couldn't apply the flashback textures because I already started rendering. That makes no sense whatsoever. Again, another lie. If he gives me the all clear, if anybody gives me the all clear and I'm asking them, hey, is your stuff done? Is your scene done? And they give me the thumbs up and they go, yes, it's done. What am I supposed to do? Not render? But here's proof once again. The team tells me that they're done and I go ahead and render. Here's what I think happened in this clip. This clip wasn't part of the original unrendered scenes. This was something Ben added on his own, but he added it around mid-2024. So if these are the same types of textures, then I can't really tell you why he didn't do it for all the others. And the explanation that he gives is 100% false. The other possibility is that he either learned a new technique or he purchased this scene from somewhere. And if this was around mid-2024, then obviously way too late to redo all the textures, as he would have almost needed to have done, the entire thing. And we were almost done with rendering at that point. I think the latter is what took place. But I'm just speculating. I think I came across this scene somewhere and I thought to myself, wait, isn't this what Ben did in his flashback? And you can purchase it, but I couldn't find it as I was, doing this video. So it's just speculation on my part, but I have a very strong feeling that may be the case. I don't know. He also reconfirms that he did animating. This very same animating that his new friends and supporters have been complaining about. But he's enjoying the fact that no one can seem to put two and two together, and he knows that, and he's mocking everybody for it, including the audience. If he's mocking me and he's mocking the project, he's mocking the audience.
Let's point out the fact that no one blames me. I don't see a single comment before you turned off comments on your own movie. Not a single one is talking about me. It's talking about you. Oh God. Oh my God.
I did 15 out of 19 scenes.
Lastly, I'd like to address his fact-checking section. I showed a section of his channel where he's been doing his own little project. My issue, honestly, wasn't after April or May of 2024. It was essentially, he was essentially done with his stuff. Even though he had to shift over to help Aiden because apparently these guys can't seem to do anything without the other. Here's a message of me asking why Aiden needed Ben to finish something that, honestly, he's a subject matter expert of. Secondly, here's a message of me showing how Ben's been doing his own side project while lying regarding Galvatron's revenge. And that's the key part. It's the lies. Like I mentioned before, the lies caused over a year delay. And in January of 2024 was when I asked people to put their projects aside until we deliver, and then they'll get a nice long break and they can work on whatever they want after that. How does someone have the audacity to lie about their assignments while going on and working on their own project? Again, I have to point back to the lack of professionalism here. Now, some folks will try to shift things back on me, but if I'm giving you credit for something on a project, and it's something that you said you can do, is expecting them to follow through abnormal? So my issue with Ben has never been his talent, because I keep on saying Ben's more talented than I am, and that's not going to change. But where he does lack is in his professionalism. His lack of professionalism cost him money. As you can see, I had additional freelance work that I just couldn't give to him because of his lack of professionalism. So when you put all of these examples together, from going out publicly and doing what he did, regardless of how small or minute it was, and your desires to build a career in this industry,
I'm trying to build a career as an animator.
It's a major head scratcher why this individual would do what he did. Should anyone come across this entire scenario, it usually looks bad on the employee speaking negatively of a former employer. I don't know. So now it's come to my attention last week that, Aiden has also been contacting other YouTubers, also spreading cherry-picked information and lies. So, these guys are all friends. So of course they're going to defend one another. So what I'm contemplating on doing, so that the snakes can no longer slither out of their corners, I'm going to do a data dump of all the conversations that took place within my company's group chat. So I met with my attorney a few days ago, and I'm just waiting to confirm if there's any violation, since again, this was my company's official chat where business was conducted even before these guys joined. Once I get the green light, every message within that chat will be revealed So there will be no more lies, no more cherry-picked information. Because see, only liars would be afraid of the truth getting out. Ben messaged me a few days ago, upset about the truth regarding his lack of professionalism outside of Prime Animations. And my response to him was that you're upset at me for speaking truth, and I'm upset at you for spreading lies. Just to be clear, in my sabotage video, I didn't name names of my team members because I was trying to protect them, which is why I said this in this particular video.
Although the hate is centered on Jason, it spills over to me. And most of the negative comments are an attempt to try and tank this film in order to hurt me. And what these people don't realize is that they're actually hurting other artists who poured so much into this project. It's terrible that they're casualties of this. And every negative comment that isn't genuine affects them as well. And I hope people would try and think about that a little bit more than just focusing on Jason or focusing on me.
Ben's the one who decided it was a good idea to go this route. And I made it very clear to him during that exchange, either you come clean with the complete truth, or I'll come out for you. Once my attorney confirms the conversations within the Prime Animation group chat are owned by Prime Animations, I'll then make the decision on doing a data dump, and then everyone will see the back and forth, and they'll be able to match it up themselves and see who's really being deceptive with them and who's not, right? So finally, just to show how talented Ben is, which was never really my complaint, if you consider the fact that I went with his look and constantly complimented him during the project updates, I'd like to showcase some of Ben's really good additions of Galvatron's Revenge. So again, I'm pointing this out there because I don't want anyone to think that that I'm complaining about Ben's talents, because in his video, there's a moment where he seems to think that. Actually, his supporters, some of the people that have gone onto his page were the ones complaining about his talents indirectly, right? They didn't know that it was him. So they're the ones complaining. I'm not complaining about his talents. What I'm complaining about is lack of professionalism. But anyhow, in this first clip, you can see Blastoff jumping onto the top of the Combaticon ship together with Onslaught. This was not part of the original, but it highlights Ben's creativity as he added more character to this specific character, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was really, really cool addition. Next are the transformation sequence in certain scenes. It's something so subtle, yet I absolutely love it more because we couldn't rig the characters and the vehicles together like we had in Soft Image. We had a driver, and you'd slide the driver and the characters would transform. We couldn't do that in Blender, so each transformation had to be manually manipulated, which is why this little detail is so huge for me, and Ben did a phenomenal job in the areas that he did to make those transformation sequences look natural. Next clip is the Bruticus transformation. Ben added the extra detail of the head coming out of Bruticus's chest. Again, this was just Ben's talent shining through, which made the moment epic in my eyes. It was just so cool to see that extra bit of transformation. I was like, oh wow, cool. I even thought to myself, why didn't we think of that when we started doing these transformation sequences? But again, that just speaks to his talent. Next are the flashback scenes. Not only was he creative enough to do the Megatron and Springer flashback from scene 12, but he also did the flashback of Unicron for scene 3. This scene was actually one of my favorites due to the gorgeous glows that he was able to achieve in these flashbacks. It really made the scene pop. Last but certainly not least is the scanning effect Ben did for Rodimus and Springer in scene 8. In his initial attempt, it didn't come out right, to be quite frank. And I asked him, I think it was at the beginning of this year, I had asked him if he could give it another shot. He agreed to it. The first one, the original one, didn't look good, but his second attempt, he nails it in my opinion. It looks really, really good, really smooth. So, in the end, I hope Ben learns to improve on his professionalism, because his talents are there, but without professionalism, he will always struggle and bounce from job to job and project to project. And it's not just in his hobbies, but in his career. But above all, I think being honest with people and yourself is really important in growth development. So guys, that's it for today's special. I hope and pray this is the last time I have to do a video like this. And you know, I just want to focus in on Dinobots Unleashed, but I refuse to have my name trashed for things that are not. I just refuse. I refuse to have my name dragged through the mud when it's not true. If it's true, okay. But if it's not true, and I can prove that it's not true, rest assured that I will. So guys, thanks again so much for tuning in. Take care. Till the next time. Peace out. Till all are one. Bye-bye.